My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another episode of Protecting America. There is so much confusion out there on the coronavirus, on vaccine mandates, on mask mandates, and so much more, and lots of mixed messaging from Dr. Fauci and the Biden administration. So how do you protect yourself and your family this holiday season? Joining us to discuss this is one of America's top medical experts. Dr. Ben Carson is a world-renowned neurosurgeon. He was the 17th Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. He was also a member of the Trump White House Coronavirus Task Force. And among many things, he is now the founder of American Cornerstone Institute. Secretary Ben Carson, so great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you, Rita. It's always fun to be with you. I appreciate your patriotism.
And yours, too, so much. I know how much you love this country, and I know how much you study about what's been happening. First of all, let's get right to it with the Omicron variant. How concerned should we be, Dr. Carson?
Well, of course, we should be concerned about disease transmission, but I think a lot of it is overblown because we've mixed politics with medicine and science. And that's why so many things don't make sense. That's why so many things go back and forth. And all we need is really a little bit of common sense. Now, you'll know that the politics has been taken out when we start recognizing things like natural immunity. Because tens of millions, if not 100 million people in this country have natural immunity. They haven't been doing a lot of studies on it. I think the main reason they haven't done a lot of studies on it is because it will show quite clearly that natural immunity is better than vaccine-induced immunity. And if that sort of throws a wrench in your proclamation that everybody must be vaccinated. So that's why they don't study it. But also, you know, the reason that they keep fluctuating back and forth, are masks important? How many doses of vaccine do you have to get? Is because this is a novel virus. That's why it's called the novel virus. It's new. We haven't seen this particular kind before. And in addition to that, we have a new kind of therapy with the vaccine. We haven't made vaccines this way in the past. So there's a lot of unknowns here. And a little bit of humility and just admitting that, there are things that we don't know and we're learning them as we go would probably go a long way in helping to establish a little more trust with the system, because you wouldn't seem like you were so wishy-washy when you keep going back and forth on things.
That's a great point, by the way, Dr. Carson, because you're right. It's like if they were just honest and said, we're learning, we're developing, we're going through this like all of you. What do you make, Dr. Carson, of Dr. Fauci, who, said, don't criticize him, that if you criticize him, you're criticizing science. And it's like one day we can have a good Christmas, the other day we can't have a good Christmas. It's like it is so confusing with him.
Yeah, well, I don't generally talk about people specifically. I've known Dr. Fauci for many, many years, and he has done some good work. But unfortunately, sometimes people allow themselves to be too closely associated with politics, and that's not a good thing when you're dealing with public health. It really is a very bad thing when you're dealing with public health, and I hope that he and some of the others will come to recognize that and stop making this about Democrats or Republicans and make it about the American people. What is good for the people? Why have we not pursued the therapeutics the way we should? We're a very creative nation. We have a lot of innovative people. Why aren't we encouraging and looking at some of the fantastic results that have been achieved with some of the therapeutics? And why aren't we using them? And why aren't we pushing, the new product that Pfizer has come out with, which reduces hospitalization and serious illness by 89%, and 89% of the people who take it. I mean, if you were really serious about getting this under control, those are the things you would be doing.
You bring up therapeutics. Why are we not pursuing it? Explain that to me, because you also had the virus. I remember you and I talked about it. You've experienced it firsthand. Why are we not pursuing some of these areas?
Because they work, I guess. I don't know. There's no logical explanation for why we're not pursuing them heavily. Now, do recognize that in order to get an emergency use authorization to pursue the vaccines, we have some rather ridiculous policies in place that say you cannot have other effective treatment. So therefore, you need to sort of denigrate all the other things that have actually worked in many cases. That doesn't make any sense. Obviously, I hope that Congress will revisit that requirement. We should be able to go down multiple paths and pursue every avenue available to us to get this under control. And do recognize that with this kind of a virus, it's going to be with us, not just this year and next. It's going to be with us for a very long period of time. It's going to keep mutating. It will eventually become just a part of the environment.
Wow. So you believe it is going to be with us for a long, long time, well beyond 2022.
Absolutely. And it'll keep varying. And you'll notice that the variations are less severe. They're less pathogenic. It just becomes a little more attenuated, and that's the way viruses usually do. Sometimes they become more contagious. It's very, very easy to catch, but doesn't necessarily make you as sick. So, if you get a cold, that's not the end of the world. Although if you get a cold and you're elderly and you have a lot of comorbidities, it could be the end of the world. And this is the same thing. And that's why we need to, recognize that, take appropriate precautions, but not become hysterical. And, you have to look at the ramifications of some of the things we're doing, the mask, the shutdowns. What impact does that have on the development of a small child? What about all the mental disturbances, the vast increase in depression and suicide? What about the impact on the economy and the destruction of people's lives? Those are things that are important to look at, too. And, when you're looking at children who have, healthy children have what's approaching 0% chance of mortality from the virus, why would you subject them to long-term unknown risk of the vaccine? It just doesn't make a whole lot of scientific sense.
It sure doesn't. And everybody, we're talking to Secretary Ben Carson, the 17th Secretary of HUD, also was on the White House Coronavirus Task Force, acclaimed neurosurgeon. You have a lot of great titles, Dr. Carson. And I have to ask you, as you were talking about the mask mandate, it just came out. It was the CEO of Southwest Airlines came out, and this was stunning. He just said masks don't add much, basically, to the plane, that the air in the plane is really good.
Sure.
What do you make of that? Because the planes were one of the first places to mask up.
They have HEPA filters on the airplane. The air is circulated through them and purified constantly. It's probably a much safer environment with or without masks than any place else you're likely to be, except the wide outdoors. So he's got a very good point. He'll probably be denigrated and lambasted for saying it, but he's got a very good point. It makes perfectly good sense.
By the way, juxtapose that, Dr. Carson, with the Metropolitan Opera is now mandating booster shots for staff and audiences. We're not just talking the vaccine. In other words, you got to get the booster shot or you won't be able to see the opera.
Well, this is a real test for America. Are we going to sort of be like sheep and just do what we're told? Or are we going to demand facts and science? This is really a test for the people. And I think a lot of the people are starting to wake up and recognize that this is not about a virus. This is about what kind of control exists. And remember, this is a country that was formed for the purpose of freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was a country that was formed by people who were trying to get away from governments who told them what they could do and when they could do it and where they could go. Now, we're fast approaching what we were trying to get away from. And we need to wake up pretty quickly because Venezuela is a good demonstration of how quickly the tide can turn.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, as you're talking about Venezuela, I have to ask you the $64 million question, Dr. Carson, that always bothers me. Here we are going through where, okay, we're talking about the mask mandate, on all these locations across the country, New York, California, a whole bunch of this stuff happening, right? And then You've got our southern border with people from Venezuela and elsewhere coming through. And those people who come through the border, this White House has said, we're not necessarily vaccinating. We don't expect them to stay that long in America, even though they seem to be staying forever. Why is that happening? Talk about hypocrisy. For the illegal aliens who are coming in, there doesn't seem to be testing. There doesn't seem to be vaccination. But if you live, you're an American law-abiding citizen, you got to mask up, you got to vax up, or else.
Well, it seems to me that if they were truly serious about getting this under control, that would be job number one, controlling the border and making sure that people who are coming over are not bringing the disease. And they have almost no concern about it. So that tells you that there may be another agenda here.
Yeah, and what do you think it is?
Well, I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it is not good for us. It's not good for America. It's not good for the American people. And, we have to demand that the leaders in our country do things that make sense. And it makes absolutely no sense not to protect our borders, particularly when we know that 20% of the people coming across are infected with the virus, and we supposedly are trying to suppress and get rid of this virus, supposedly.
Right. That's why it is such mixed messaging. What do you say to folks who are listening now who are so worried what they can do for themselves and their families this holiday? What's your advice to them?
Well, I would say, first of all, don't panic. Open your eyes and look around. For instance, if you know people who've had COVID, do you know any people who've had COVID who got it again? It's very, very rare. I don't know any. And ask yourself the question, why is that? Are those people truly unsafe? Do we truly have to ask them for, proof that they've been vaccinated? Use your head a little bit.
And we can have a safe holiday season despite the mixed messaging from Dr. Fauci?
I think just do things that make perfectly good sense. If there's somebody who's sick, who's going around coughing over everything, please ask them to stay away. But otherwise, just do logical, sensible things. Don't be sharing a glass, without washing it, and things of that nature that make sense in terms of the normal transmission of germs. It's the same principles that we use, during flu season and to try to prevent people from getting the common cold. And this is approaching the level of a common cold. Eventually, it will be at that level.
Well, thank you for the reassuring words. It's always so wonderful to talk with you. Secretary Ben Carson, great to have you here on the podcast on how we can protect ourselves and also our loved ones and just to present what is really happening in this country. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
and I hope you have a great holiday, too.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas, Dr. Carson. And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.